So, business rules management software. I guess I would ask the four of you. If you're going to advise this hypothetical company that's looking for a business rules software product, what sort of things would you advise them to look for? Given that there's a couple of constituencies, there's IT folks, there's business folks. What's important? Ankur, what's your take? And also, actually, if you give us a little nutshell, what actually does a BRMS solution do for a company? And then please talk about what you might think about when you're picking one out.
Sure, James. So business rules management systems are really expert systems designed to manage your rules and business logic. So instead of keeping your logic in the form of application code in any software system, you've now extracted that logic and put it into a system that's specifically designed for managing rules. So you're building and modeling and testing your rules in a separate expert system, while keeping the software solutions just from an application standpoint where you're thinking about the user experience and different features and not have to worry about the logic in that code. So that's essentially what a rules management system is. And I think when companies are looking at BRMS systems and trying to figure out what are some of the things that we should be careful for, one of the things that we've seen customers do is just try to understand why they're looking at a BRMS system. There could be a variety of different reasons why they've gone down that path, and I think it's really critical for them to understand why they're doing so. One of them could be, for example, you're operating in an environment where the rules are constantly changing, right? So, for example, you're in a heavy compliance and regulatory environment, for example, financial services or the insurance sector, so much so that every time a regulation changes, you're just having difficulty keeping pace with the change that's happening. And so each change that happens from a regulation standpoint requires months of development effort. And now you're looking at a BRMS system where you don't have to take that much development time in making those changes. You're keeping up with that change, with those regulations and compliance, and making sure you can develop faster. That's sort of one area where you would look at. I think the other thing that companies would need to look at from a BRMS standpoint is, well, are you looking to go a BRMS route for making your business agile, right? Mm-hmm. Any development of new products or changes to existing products requires IT resources, for example. Right. And every company says that we're always in shortage of IT resources. Well, so one of the things that you could do is adopt a BRMS system that might be able to bring in business people to the mix. So you now have them take the responsibility of the business logic, in turn requiring less IT resources and not having to wait for them. The other opposite end to that is companies which might come back and say, hey, look, we've got plenty of IT resources, right? So that's really not our worry. But the reason why we've not been able to be more agile is because development is a really long process. It takes months for us to come out with any kind of a product or a product change. And for them, they might be looking at a BRMS system to shorten that development time, because now you can specify and model and test your rules at the same time. So it's not about bringing business folks, it's still about IT, but now you're using a rules engine rather than having to write all of that code.
But I think about the BRMS solution is a place where the business folks and the IT folks kind of come together typically, true?
Absolutely. It's a tool where both business and IT need to collaborate with each other. So it's no longer the case where, hey business, you give us the requirements and send it over the wall to IT and not have any say in how things are happening. With a BRMS system, it depends on how the organization wants to function. If it's the business people are comfortable writing the rules themselves, they still have to work with IT in making sure the application is ready to function with that business logic. In the other sense, you can have IT teams writing rules in a rules engine, but also collaborating with the business people and saying, hey, look, you gave me a set of 5 requirements. You forgot about those 3. What am I supposed to do with those 3? Mm-hmm. So it's always a collaboration between business and IT.
James, this is Connie.
Yes.
Can I make an adjustment? I think
Please.
whenever you have these conversations, it's the business analyst that is that key bridge between IT and the business. And the business analyst may actually sit in IT. They may sit in different parts of the business. They may have a specialized competency center. They could be many different places around an organization. And no matter what technology we're talking about, whether it's business process management or business rules or predictive analytics, or the list goes on and on and on, we're talking about more and more these complex technologies that are now evolving, right, where the business has a lot of control over it, but not just any old business person. It's usually some very well-trained, technically oriented business analyst, and I think that's an important distinction to make.
Well, how does that tie into how a business might select a BRMS solution, Connie? What's your take on that?
Well, I have an opinion about business rules software, that you should be looking for something that's very logical and very straightforward and easy to use. And not all products are like that. Some are so unbelievably complicated, they will literally give you a migraine. And if you're trying to empower the business, you don't want a tool like that. So you want the tool to get the job done, and if it's a complex process like underwriting, you have a lot you're expecting of the tool. But at the end of the day, if business is to be empowered, then they need a business-ready tool that can be understood by technically oriented business people.
An intuitive user interface, in other words.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Ken, what's your take? What would you advise people in terms of selecting a BRMS solution?
Yeah, I would have to agree with Connie in that it needs to be something that's easy for people to use, or it's not going to get the adoption level that you're really looking for in the business. And that's what you really want, is for people to engage and really use the tool to its fullest extent, not just use it as an Excel spreadsheet or something. You really want full engagement. So it's going to have to be something intuitive, easy to use, and something that's a little more not just user friendly, but also business friendly. Mm-hmm. So I think the choice is going to have to come down to something that's business friendly and user friendly.
Dana, what's your take? I know you blog about a lot of topics. If you're going to blog about this, what would you say? Like how to select a BRMS solution?
Yeah, I think the user experience is becoming top of mind for lots of different parts of IT and business, and that, I think, is supported by the need for additional automation across what we're doing with IT. The role of IT is shifting towards a broker specifier, getting out of the weeds of implementation and deployment, and we're seeing that cut across a lot of these other different types of tools and management. So in addition to the user experience, we also want to look at a system that's able to be backwards compatible to existing rules and the data where those rules exist. We want to be forward compatible and recognize that we're doing extended enterprise activities, and so we're going to need to have open APIs and open embrace of standards and the ability to extend our business rules regardless of where the business processes take us. So you want to look for something that's platform agnostic, that's not just in one framework or one tool set, that cuts across the breadth and depth of the new openness that we're looking for across organizations and processes, but also not have to cut bait and start from scratch, something that gives you return on your investment for what you've had in place with your rules engines and business processes all along.
Yeah, the new openness in particular, it's amazed me over the last, like, say, 5 years or so. The idea of interoperability used to be a good idea. Now it's like absolutely like table stakes. You can't even walk up to the table without being really interoperable.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of adoption of open source readily. We're seeing more and more companies say, I'm going to open source this code, or I'm going to make a community development approach available to this. So they realize that The community is a great way to have that adoption of openness and more migration and interoperability, but recognizing that islands are no longer the issue. You have to be able to extend across islands, whether it's islands of automation, platform, application, interfaces, what have you.